I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, state of emergencies have been declared in 5 states as a major storm is expected to hit the Northeast. Schools, businesses, roads, and airports are closed. Flights are being canceled. We'll tell you how that's impacting travel out of Lindbergh Field tonight.
Police officer over a racist cartoon points to questions about racism in the San Diego Police Department. I'm Peggy Pico with the details. And how the future of medicine is literally in your own hands. Why citizen medicine could mean better and cheaper health care.
The bread looks yummy, doesn't it?
San Diego Opera serving food at its production of La Boheme, but this food is being served on stage. We'll give you a behind-the-scenes look at the production design. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. A potentially record-breaking snowstorm developing in the Northeast prompted airlines to cancel several flights out of San Diego today. Most arriving passengers at Lindbergh Field were unaffected by the winter storm. 2 flights to Newark, New Jersey, and 1 to Houston were canceled this morning, while JetBlue canceled runs to Boston and New York City. Rebecca Bloomfield with the Airport Authority says the weather in New England is having a ripple effect on airports around the country.
It really does cause this ripple effect, and it could last for several days. Even after the weather has passed, the airlines may be trying to get themselves back into their regular rotation. So you could see flights for the next few days, which is again why we recommend checking with your airline before heading down to the airport.
Airlines have canceled about 7,000 flights through Wednesday, and most carriers say they are waiving the change fee for passengers rescheduling their travel. The brunt of the Northeast storm expected to hit this evening and into tomorrow. A panel focused on storing spent nuclear fuel at the San Onofre nuclear plant in the North County convenes this week. San Onofre's power company, Southern California Edison, wants the federal government to take action on its obligation to find a place to store the nuclear waste. Thousands of tons of radioactive material will be stored indefinitely at San Onofre unless a permanent site is found. California immunization data on kindergartners this school year show fewer parents opting out of vaccinations for their kids for personal beliefs. A UC Davis health expert says it's probably because of a 2012 law requiring parents to consult with a health care provider before signing the waiver. The state says many people sickened in the current measles outbreak were not vaccinated intentionally or were just too young. County supervisors will vote sometime this week on a plan to put a cap on how much a political party can donate to a candidate or issue in a single election. Supervisor Ron Roberts wants to follow the city's lead. He's asking for a $20,000 contribution limit for countywide elections and a $10,000 limit for other races. Supervisors will decide as well whether to adopt Laura's Law. It allows for outpatient treatment for the severely mentally ill. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg joins us from our North County Bureau. Kenny, this measure was approved in California in 2002. Remind us what it's all about.
Well, even though state lawmakers approved it in 2002, each county has to approve it individually and implement it separately if they want to institute Laura's Law. Laura's Law allows doctors, cops, or family members to ask a judge to require someone with severe mental illness to get outpatient treatment. Now, there are certain preconditions. The person with severe mental illness has to have a history of hospitalizations or incarcerations. They have to have refused treatment, and they have to pose a significant threat to themselves or others.
And why do supporters say we need Laura's Law here in San Diego County?
Well, supporters say we need Laura's Law to prevent people with severe mental illness from spiraling out of control. They also say we need Laura's Law to prevent a certain subset of people with severe mental illness from acting out violently against themselves or others.
But there are critics to Laura's Law as well. What do they say?
Well, critics say by requiring someone to get treatment, you're violating their rights as patients. In other words, somebody has diabetes, there's no law that forces them to have treatment. But under Laura's law, you can require someone with severe mental illness to get outpatient treatment.
And Kenny, what's been the experience in other counties with Laura's law?
Well, Nevada County in Northern California was the first county to implement Laura's law. And health officials there say, in their many years of experience, they've cut down on incarcerations, cut down on hospitalizations, and also cut down on homelessness among the severely mentally ill. So it's saved taxpayers money. Now, since that time, Orange County has implemented Laura's law, so has LA County, and now San Diego County is considering it.
And do we know when the Board of Supervisors are going to vote on this?
They're presumably going to vote on it tomorrow.
KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg. As we recently reported, a San Diego police sergeant is suing the city over a racist cartoon shown during a police training session. Peggy Pico has more on the story.
Arthur Scott, a 10-year veteran of the San Diego Police Department, is suing the city for alleged discrimination and retaliation after he says he complained about a racist cartoon shown at a police training event. My guest, Detective Sergeant Ben Kelso, president of the San Diego Black Police Association, and Lechala Wilson with the NAACP, joins us for a conversation about race and the police department. And welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Lechala, briefly describe this cartoon that was handed out in the police training session.
It appears to show Officer McCarter, or Frank McCarter, who was the first black San Diego police officer. This is from 1909. However, the character of him reminds me of blackface and also of the minstrel shows where you have the exaggerated big lips, the buck eyes. Some people look at it and they see that it looks like he's ape-like. And it appears that he's going into the Asian community, and there are very many derogatory comments about Asians that should have been unacceptable then and is unacceptable now.
So this cartoon covers a wide range of what could be offensive in many different races, or a couple different races. Ben, how represented are minorities in the San Diego Police Department?
Well, the San Diego Police Department still struggles with recruiting minorities and women, as do a lot of law enforcement agencies across the board. So things like this don't help those efforts.
Earlier today, Scott's attorney, Dan Gillian, told KPBS that the cartoon used during training had nothing to do with race relations, nor, he said, was it used as an example of racism or discrimination that should be countered or different today. Ben, do you think there's racism in the San Diego Police Department?
You know, I think the San Diego Police Department is a microcosm of the rest of the United States. There's certainly perception that people are treated unfairly on the basis of race and gender. Whether or not that's true or not, I think we have to start having more discussions and try to break those things down to determine what the barriers are and what make people feel that way.
Did you receive other complaints from other police officers that this cartoon was offensive?
Absolutely. I've received tons of phone calls and people in meetings with me to talk about how they felt about it, and yeah, they were offended by it.
Lechala, how about in the community? Is there what kind of impact does this sort of thing, does this incident in particular have in black communities here in San Diego?
I think it validates what a lot of people think, that they cannot trust the police, that the police department is racist. And so it doesn't help the situation, since over the last year we've been having, problems with the relationship between the minority community and law enforcement. And this just makes people see, I told they're racist, and it's not only just the officers on the street, but it comes from the top.
And it's confirming that in the community is what you're hearing.
Yes.
Ben, is Sergeant Arthur Scott still working?
Yes, he is. He's still at work. I have spoken to him several times over the course of the last few days. However, this is a very sensitive personal issue to him, and he appreciates the support that he's been given from a lot of different members are speaking out and saying that they support him in this, and the Black Police Officers Association also supports him.
Now, in a statement, San Diego Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman said that they take the allegations seriously and they will fully cooperate with the investigation, although she declined to be on our show today to talk about it. How would you like to see, I'll start with you, Ben, how would you like to see the police department follow up?
I really feel that, one, the cooperation with the investigation will bring out some things that we will need to talk further on, and having open dialogue and discussion about those issues, and then how to bring in training and other issues related to cultural sensitivity will help move the department to the next level.
And how about you, Lechala?
Well, I understand right now they're doing an investigation, but I would like to have the chief of police publicly condemn the showing of that cartoon, to say that it was offensive, it's inappropriate, and that it will not happen again.
What do you think needs to be done, Ben? What do you think needs to be done to increase minority representation in the San Diego Police Department?
You know, I think that's a pretty comprehensive question. We're going to have to really examine some of our existing systems for recruiting and look at different ways we can bring larger pools of applicants of color to the police department.
And what do you think? Is there a better way to do this? Do we start in the schools? Where do we start?
I do think you start in the schools, and in fact, at one point, I did talk to the superintendent at the San Diego Unified School District, and I think that even with Black history or with cultural training, they don't need to start here in America with slavery. They need to start in Africa, and that people understand where we really came from, and that we were actually victims of slavery, and it wasn't our fault. So if you start in the schools and people learn not to be racist, biased, practice discrimination, then when they grow up, they have a different ideal.
All right, Lechala Wilson and Detective Sergeant Ben Kelso, thank you so much.
Thank you.
A California lawmaker wants to restrict the use of electronic cigarettes. Democratic Senator Mark Leno says he's introducing legislation to ban vaping e-cigarettes inside bars, restaurants, and other workplaces. Similar bills have failed in the past. Last year, San Diego and other local cities approved similar rules.
They're marketing this as if it's a healthy alternative, and they did this 50 years ago with low tar and light cigarettes, and now they're doing the same thing with e-cigarettes in terms of marketing it as a healthy alternative when there's in fact no proof that it is a healthy product.
The bill will likely face an uphill battle from the tobacco industry, which has made significant contributions to several lawmakers. Well, state lawmakers completed mandatory ethics training for the new legislative session. This year's agenda included the new blackout rule. It prohibits lawmakers from fundraising during the last month of the session and during budget negotiations. Last year, 3 senators were ousted on felony charges, yet some questioned the effectiveness of ethics training.
You can't legislate ethics. You can set up standards and hold people to them, but I don't know that ethics training will change the, I guess you say, the moral atmosphere of any particular legislator. If they come in with a good sense, then they'll stay good sense. If they come in with a bad way of doing things, they'll probably do bad things.
The Justice Department says in 2014, California State Senate had a higher arrest rate than all of California's major cities. Hunting is in decline across California, and one reason could be the expense. The Department of Fish and Wildlife says the cost of hunting licenses have gone up at a higher rate than the average income, while the number of people hunting in California has gone down by more than half since the 1970s.
The fees have gotten more expensive. It's about $46 just to purchase a hunting license. And then if you want a duck hunt, which just finished up, that costs you another $25 to $40 just for the stamps. And it's on state wildlife areas, it costs $22 a day to hunt. So yeah, like skiing, it's an expensive sport. Those who love it find the money for it.
The State Wildlife Department says urbanization and regulations have also contributed to the decline. Marine Corps is investigating a deadly helicopter crash. It happened at the 29 Palms Marine Base Friday, killing 2 pilots based at Camp Pendleton. Officials say Captain Elizabeth Keeley and First Lieutenant Adam Satterfield were outstanding officers and talented pilots. The deep drop in gas prices may soon be coming to a halt. AAA says over the last month, San Diego's average price for unleaded dropped 24 cents to $2.43 a gallon. That's more than $1 below what it was a year ago. But analyst Trilby Lundberg says prices are likely to go back up due to rising wholesale prices. A San Diego doctor tells Peggy Pico tonight the future of medicine will be better, cheaper, and literally in your own hands.
These days, blood pressure, sugar levels, heart rhythms, and other health issues are commonly monitored through digital devices. Now my guest, Dr. Eric Topol, cardiologist, professor of genomics, and director of the Scripps Translational Science Institute, says the future of medicine is in your hands. In his new book, The Patient Will See You Now. Dr. Topol, welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Peggy.
Now, you say advancing technology will lead to citizen medicine. What's that?
Well, this is about the power of information. And so when the information about you and your body is going directly to your smartphone or your mobile device, that's a complete flip of how healthcare has been rendered from the beginning of the medical profession.
Which was always doctor to patient.
Well, the doctor was in control. The doctor would order the lab tests and order the scans. Well, now you're going to be doing all this yourself. You can have sensors that connect to get all your vital signs, whether it's your glucose or your blood pressure, your heart rhythm, and you can do your own labs. You can summon a doctor at any moment through your phone and have a consult, or even to your house. And so all these things are changing very quickly, including the physical exam. So the smartphone is the hub of the future of medicine.
Okay, so those are some examples of how this technology that we have now and how it might advance help sort of change things and get it back into the person's hands. But you're a doctor, so how safe is a non-medical person going to feel or be at interpreting or managing their own health care, say, from an artificial intelligence app?
Well, that's what we're getting at, is using machines, computers, to make diagnoses. They can be remarkably accurate, and they need to be validated, of course. But the difference is it's not for everyone. And some people will like the traditional model. But for those who want to have their information and use the machine age, the digital infrastructure that we have, it's an enormous, phenomenal opportunity.
No, you've also written that digitized medicine raises some serious privacy issues. Any ideas on how to address those concerns?
Well, privacy is center stage here because nobody wants their medical precious information out in the public, and that's what the risk is unless we do something about it. We can't handle this like doing a search or buying things or shopping through the internet. We have to treat medical data with particular high regard for privacy and security. Nothing is being done about this, and that's going to hold us back.
I was going to say, does it go hand in hand, though? Can we advance medically with technology if we don't have these security systems in place?
If we don't get that going, then this thing is basically frozen. It's just not going to move.
Let's talk about the premise in your book here. How will doctors and the medical professions, how are they responding to this idea of, as you call it, democratized medicine through technology, that it's leveling the playing field here?
Well, it isn't exactly with a warm, enthusiastic response, Peggy. But really what we're talking about is that the doctors who are very much threatened by losing control, by change of any kind, and by reimbursement issues. I mean, that's really a lot of vulnerability there. So it naturally isn't playing well with many physicians. However, if there's this new partnership where doctors are offsetting some of their role today of diagnosis and monitoring for a lot of routine things, that gives them a lot more time to do what counts, which is treatment and healing and using their wisdom and their experience and their guidance in partnerships.
So it sounds like you're seeing the doctor's role still present, but a different perspective on it. How do you envision the future of doctors if this digitized medicine progresses, and hospitals in the future?
Well, this is a cutting across all aspects of healthcare. So doctors, those who are willing to make this adjustment, will have a very different role and will be concentrating on the important stuff, which is treatment and communication and empathy and the things that their talent really are well suited. But hospitals, my goodness, the hospitals of the future, the regular rooms, they don't really need to be there. They could be in the patient's bedroom because hospital rooms average $4,500 a night in the United States. And 1 in 4 people get a serious either infection or other harm done. We could do so much better.
While in the hospital.
Yeah, while in the hospital. We could do so much better if they're in their own bedroom. And this is, I think, a real challenge to the icon, the hospital edifice that we've highly regarded for centuries.
All right, Dr. Eric Topol and the future of medicine. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Peggy.
Food is being served on stage at San Diego Opera's latest production of La Boheme. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando takes us behind the scenes.
San Diego Opera is serving up something new for La Boheme.
We have a lot of real food in the cafe.
There's chicken pot pie, turkey pastrami, salami, cheese plates, crackers, and coffee. Oh, we serve coffee too. We're a full-service cafe.
This production is filmically real, as much as we can get. It's on stage, of course, and it's meant to be on stage, but it is filmic style real. So anything that is visible, I want to be absolutely exactly accurate.
That's a lot of work for Terry McCambridge and his props department, because they have to prep the food for the Act 2 cafe scene before the opera even starts.
Well, we have to, because Act 2 is preset behind Act 1, and it just rotates into place, and we won't have a chance to get out and set it. So we just have to have it preset, and then it rotates. The carpenters rotate the unit around.
Puccini's opera about tragic young love set against Paris's bohemian art scene has almost an entire act set in a cafe. Food is served, dishes clank, and people sing as they eat. For director Isabella Bywater, it's important that the food is real.
Well, because you can see the people eating, and if it's not real, then they aren't eating, and then we don't believe them. And the other thing is that when they're clearing the plates, they will be empty if they have real food on. You notice that?
Okay, maybe not the folks in the back rows, but a lot of people will see the food. In fact, there are panes of glass angled over the cafe that allow the audience to see the tables from above and feel like they're in a bustling Paris cafe.
And for the performers, it makes it much more convincing for them, which makes it easier for them to play it truthfully. And it gives an energy to the scene, which would not be there otherwise.
Bywater's eye for detail may stem from when she first saw the opera in Covent Garden.
I thought that the studio was ridiculously large and unconvincingly grand. And I promised myself never to make a studio large. And people who come to see this will notice that the studio is not large.
In fact, it's quite cramped and cluttered with props that make it feel more real.
I'm a perfectionist, and I go for detail, whatever it is. Whether it's a very simple design or a simple approach, I will go for detail in that. And in this case, there's detail with a lot of stuff.
Stuff like street carts loaded with goods, chestnuts roasting on a fire, and...
Look at the curtains.
These details excited Kay O'Neill.
Oh, my God. Aren't those marvelous?
An audio describer who provides descriptions of the opera to the visually impaired.
The bread looks yummy, doesn't it?
The opera is usually set in the 1830s, but Bywater has it play out in the 1930s and drew inspiration from French photographers of that time.
Particularly Cartier-Bresson and Brassai, and really it was very interesting because these photographers took pictures of ordinary people, poor people, in the slums, and underworld people who were living what we would otherwise describe as a bohemian life.
The production design has the look of a black and white photo.
It is certainly monochromatic. All the grayness and everything it does, it just gives you that cold feeling.
Which works well in the chilly scenes of winter. For the other seasons, lighting warms the set, which rotates to reveal different parts of the Paris street, and to slice open the artist's studio to provide a window into their lives. The 1930s setting also makes the characters more accessible through their costumes.
If you want to impart information about a character, yes, it is useful to be in the period after corsets. The more modern you get, the more information you get from the kind of clothes they wear. You know immediately somebody wearing sneakers is different from someone wearing high heels.
But no matter what the setting, Bywater insists that the story is universal because human behavior doesn't change, and Puccini's music conveys that to an audience.
He's very good at writing emotions very clearly. I hope they go away having had a wonderful evening, and I hope they will have cried.
Crying has always been on the menu for La Boheme, but audiences may find their appetites whetted in new ways with the offerings of this production. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
San Diego Opera's La Boheme opens Saturday at the Civic Center downtown. It runs right through Sunday, February 1st.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, we dig into the roots of the rise of Muslim extremism in Europe. Margaret Warner reports from London. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
Looks like we got some light showers today, and we are looking at some cooler temperatures as well over the next few days. Expect sunshine along the coast tomorrow, then clouds by Wednesday and Thursday. Looks about the same for the inland valleys. Temperatures mostly in the 70s, though. There's a mix of sun and clouds tomorrow for the mountains, temperatures in the 50s, and we've got clouds in the desert with temperatures there in the 70s. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. We'll examine the effectiveness of the use of drones to patrol the U.S.-Mexico border. And at noon on KPBS Midday, more analysis on how Laura's Law may impact mental health services here in the county. And are you getting enough sleep? We'll look at how sleep deprivation can affect everything from your health to your marriage. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.